You're welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Well, we told you earlier about a press conference that held here in Lagos yesterday, convened by Joint Action Front, a non-governmental organization. In their interaction with media representatives present, the coalition admitted that President Tinubu had made some impact since inauguration into office, but took strong exception to majority of his decisions taken so far, especially in the areas of fuel subsidy removal and signing of the student loan bill. According to them, what Nigerian students and their families need at this time is not any scheme that could impoverish them any longer and mortgage or stifle the future of the country.
They rely on the trade unions to address the problems confronting the Nigerian people. Secondly, it is also important for us in mobilizing our people to be armed with sufficient information. One of which is this thing about 114% proposed salary increase. And let me say here, no public officer in Nigeria today relies on approved salaries. They have found their way out of the salary structure, starting with the National Assembly. What is recommended by the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission for a senator is about 1 million naira per month. On their own, they have awarded themselves 15 million naira per month. House of Reps, 13 million naira per month. So if they are talking of 114% of that, they may be talking of over 30 million naira per senator.
The issue of Nigeria has never been about the participation of the Nigerian people in the affairs of their country. It has always been about a group of elites who believe that everything that should belong to us belongs to them. So if we're not careful, one day you're going to wake up and they tell you, because the one Mr. Dejo of the Ministry of, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Education was saying recently, a few days ago, talking about Students' Loan Act, that they're going to run it on a PPP basis, public-private partnership. So who are the private investors? You can be sure that they're not even going to invest 1 kobo in it. It's about taking over the assets of the Nigerian people.
The labor movement, the working class movement remain the primary class of the society. But we also know the state of what that movement is today. So we have a duty and we have that responsibility. And that's the first thing, is to reject all that is happening to us now. Nothing should be taken as final. The unfortunate thing that happened was the collapse, even before lifting a finger, of our labor that have decided to fight to defend the interests of our people. Even from the jokes that has happened, the regime himself was shocked that that strike will collapse even before it started.
Well, yesterday on the morning show, we spoke with the President Tinubu's Special Advisor on Policy Coordination, Hadiza Bala Usman. In the course of the conversation, she said that it will take a bit of time before the gains of the fuel subsidy removal and student loan bill will begin to filter through to those who are intended to benefit from them. And that again mirrored President Tinubu's position on the matter, which he expressed in the past week when suing for patience from the international community regarding recent far-reaching decisions on fuel subsidy and moves to restore sanity in the forex market. Sacrifice, the president said, will be key to delivering the desired result. But the Joint Action Front, a coalition of non-governmental organizations, differs, especially on the issue of student loans bill. In their words, the entire scheme is steeped in deceit, as the Nigerian people will once again be left with the short end of the stick. To chew over this matter, we are now being joined here by Achike Chude, who is a frontline human rights activist and deputy chairman of Joint Action Front. You saw him speaking on that report, and he joins us now to speak further. Good morning, Achike.
Yeah, good morning.
Good to have you in the studio with us.
It's a pleasure.
Good morning.
All right, let's start this way. I saw SAN Falano, there yesterday, speaking in his usual format, with fire and brimstone, if you like. But then, people recall that he met with the president about 2 weeks ago. Doesn't mean that things didn't turn out as he would have wanted. That's one. And then secondly, can you break down for us what precisely of the president's policies, just in 3 weeks, that you commend, and which ones do you have issues with?
Yeah, well, then, obviously we don't know what Femi Falana discussed with the president. And they had the privacy of that discussion. So we don't know unless either of them come to tell us what the discussion was about. But I also noticed you are quoting the president talking about the need for sacrifice, make more sacrifice. We have done that since 1979.
Let the poor breathe,
We've done that since 1979. Don't forget the MPN tighten your belt situation. So for over 4 decades, Nigerians have been the ones making the sacrifices. Femi Falana was talking about what the lawmakers are earning and all that. So it's always easy to say, look, Nigerians, bear with us. The president's advisor, Hadiza, also said the same thing. But it's our duty to look at what is going on and then to also look behind, the small prints, what the whole thing is all about. First of all, we don't know whether the president has said, or the minister in the permanent secretary and minister of education has said that the government doesn't intend to keep on putting money in the educational sector. That's an abdication of responsibility, first of all. Education is a matter of national priority, especially now where the country is facing consequences of not educating its students, especially the youths. We have seen the insecurity in the country, which to some extent you would trace to the fact that a lot of people do not have sufficient education because education has a way of elevating the spirit and the intellect and making them stakeholders within the polity. So a lot of people you see today do not have any sense of, that they are stakeholders in this country. Beyond that is the fact that the maths doesn't sum up, the maths. We are talking about...
Will that be on the student loan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, going into it. We are talking about 133 million Nigerians in multidimensional poverty. That figure came out about a year ago, or more than a year ago. So we should be talking about 145 million Nigerians in multidimensional poverty. Things have gotten worse since then. So if you have 145 million Nigerians in multidimensional poverty, it will tell you that the situation within our tertiary institution, that a lot of parents are struggling, And so you could say, okay, fine. The government, because they are all conjectures, the government has not told us how much the school fees would be that they are supposed to subsidize. Because again, you're talking about subsidy.
Yeah.
One way or the other, that the government...
It's subsidy.
Exactly. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Which itself, because we formed this passion of demonizing anything subsidy. Meanwhile, the countries that are telling us remove subsidy are subsidizing steel industry in France, are subsidizing the dairy industry in the Netherlands and the Scandinavian countries, are subsidizing food production in the United States and all that.
And subsidizing education.
Subsidizing education, social welfare and all that. And so when it comes to Nigeria, because again, we are paying a price for the misgovernance and the corruption that has taken place. That's what this whole thing is all about. The political class have stolen almost everything. Now they say we don't have money. They also need to be able to pay the interest, 93% interest we are paying on our debt. So they need to pay. And so the Europeans are telling them, the IMF and the World Bank are saying, look, you can get this money to pay us from removing the subsidy. So you have no excuse to tell us you don't have money because we have seen how much you are saving from this subsidy. Therefore, you can pay us. So that is the primary reason why this thing is happening. Now, if you're looking at a situation, let's just say 75%, there are about 4 million Nigerians, young people in the nation's tertiary institutions. In the university system, it's around maybe 1.8 million, maybe 2022 figures. In colleges of education, polytechnics, and all the other tertiary institutions, maybe another 2.2 million. That's about 4 million. Now, if you say you're going to give loan to students, about how many of them will apply? because of the poverty in the country. So what you're going to have is that about 75% of these people, for instance, minimum would apply. That translates to around 600 billion. That translates to around 600 billion that the government has to pay for this subsidy. That also translates to around 8,000 and something applications that would be approved every single day per year. This is per year. You understand? So how can anybody sit and tell us that they have the capacity to approve that number and that they have the capacity? But so it's not just, and meanwhile, as we are talking, immediately the president made that announcement. Some universities have started increasing school fees. The loan scheme had not been put in place. Others are already, increasing school fees in those places. And so when you look at it and you realize that, look, this is not, besides, the government has a duty. The Abuja Declaration in 2001 indicated by the African Union, which Nigeria was a signatory to, 15%. This is not even the UNICEF recommendation of about 25-26%. 15% of the country's budget must go towards education. Nigeria is a signatory to it. Why are they telling us that they are not going to follow this? Apart from the fact that any increase in the nation's tertiary institution is illegal. If you look at the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution, you cannot increase school fees unless you go back to the to the Constitution to change it, to amend it. But our politicians have absolute disdain
for public
contempt.
institutions.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I want to clarify. Where do you think the deceit is coming from at this point in regards to the student loan? Because as you know, I don't know if you've read the act, it's saying that the FIRS and other agencies will contribute about 1% of their revenue towards the act. And I think that they have budgeted about 200 billion naira at this point to cater to about 2 million students. And this is the first tranche at this point. So where is this deceit coming from? Because
I have just told you, the logistics of it is not
why are you
it doesn't
quick
make sense.
to condemn the logistics?
Even the onerous, the condition for even applying and obtaining this loan is onerous. The society is stratified along social lines, and so you have a situation where the indigent people for whom this loan it should apply, do not even have access to the civil servants, the people that are supposed to guarantee them this loan. That's what I was talking about. The hierarchy within the society. People of that level do not have access to justice of the peace and so on. So you just have a few people who might be able to access this. And the one thing I can tell you is that most Nigerians do not want to stand, guarantor for anybody. Even in private business, that's what I've realized. You tell somebody to bring a guarantor, most guarantors don't want to do that because they don't want to be burdened with, situation of
So can you prefer any type of solution? I believe that yesterday Hadiza Bala Ahmed was here on the show and she talked about the fact that, this scheme may not reach everybody, but it will reach a few people. Can you prefer some sort of solution?
So if it will reach a few people, what it means ultimately, if it's not going to reach everybody and reach a few people, then what it means is that the vast majority of people will have to drop out of school, out of the school system, because they would have increased it. Don't also forget that Nigerians have had to also supplement whatever fees that they have. There are all kinds of sundry fees that have to be paid, accommodation and the rest. That translates to, looking at the number of people in the country today, perhaps another 6 billion that Nigerian parents, and guardians have been paying for their wards in the school, accommodation, administrative fees, and all that. So these things are very clear. So when they now say it's going to be for a few people, then it's a problem. We realized we're involved in the struggle for the University of Lagos, LASU. When unilaterally, the government, all of a sudden, in one fell swoop, increased school fees from 25% from 25,000 naira to 250 to 300,000 naira. Immediately that happened, a lot of students dropped out of school. And I can tell you because we fought that battle, also on behalf of students and the lecturers and the rest, in combination with them. And a lot of the girls, of course, had to look for something else, prostitution and all that. A lot of boys went into crime. That was what happened. And
okay, let's speak solutions.
Because they didn't have the means.
What would you rather the federal government
The AU has given us a term of reference. They've told us 15% of your national budget. Let them not keep on giving. The problem is that we accept excuses from the government all the time. 15% of your national budget. That should be enough. They don't even need, and that will be enough to guarantee stability within the university system. And look, because the issue is this, why is it that Nigerians find themselves in Benin, find themselves in Ghana to their universities? Does it mean that the university system is better than ours? Perhaps. But you can imagine, where the government goes above what they should even do in terms of investment, in the university system, and make this, the universities much more in tune with international realities in the field of education. What that means is that you are now going to have these people that are in those countries coming back to Nigeria. You have people from all over the continent also coming back to Nigeria to make use of our facilities here. You generate money also from them. So let the government do the basic. At least he had an agreement. We will do this. Yeah, but you see, for them, education is not important. And that's just the reality. Forget all of these things that they are telling us. Because without education is the basis for national development. Everybody knows that. If you don't educate your people, there's a price to pay, and we're already paying the price.
Absolutely.
Well, some stakeholders, of course, are hailing the signing of this bill as a game changer, and others are maintaining, just like you, that many students will not meet the stringent conditions that have already been set in place. And you've also spoken about how the focus should just be making sure that we meet that 15% requirement of the education budget. And even in that video, we did see Femi Falana talk about the cost of governance. And that has really been the bone of contention, that, okay, fine, we have a lot of monies that is looking to being saved. I mean, with fuel subsidy, that's supposed to be plugging a leakage when it comes to how much money we spend on other subsidies. Well, how do we implement that? We were just talking about the 114% increase. As of now, the proposal, right, it's a recommendation as of now. It's been shut down, saying that in itself was not supposed to happen. But even at that, we're looking at the cost of governance already being overrun. How can we merge those two and see how we can bring down the cost of governance and almost use that to feed into this budget and make sure that the student loan bill in itself might not be the solution out of bringing non-educated people, those that want to go to school, from going, further.
Yeah, I'll answer that, but before that, let me just talk briefly about the constitution or the provision in chapter 2 of Nigeria's, constitution, talking about certain things that should be free, like education and all that. Yes. And then, but there's a caveat. Fantastic. Subject to availability of funds. That is it. And so when you look at this whole Education Act, the Loan Education Act, it is, by the time they speak all the long grammar and everything, they also use the same expression, subject to the availability of funds. So with that kind of thing, you can escape, you can run away from responsibilities, because it's just for you to say, we do not have the money. So it is not an obligation, in spite of the fact that, yes, this policy has been signed and so on, it's not an obligation. So the government at any time can tell you, we do not have the money to do this. That is dangerous. Then beyond the issue of cost of governance, Nigerians themselves are not serious. Nigerians themselves are not ready to hold their politicians accountable. That's just what the whole thing is all about. I mean, you're telling people that you want to remove the fuel subsidy. You're telling people that you're going to increase by 40% the electricity tariff. You are also, some of us don't even know that they have also added 2.5% on VAT, for diesel. Now, diesel was exempt from because diesel, they say they had the deregulated diesel, but they needed to go there to also collect something from there. Prices go up. So it's always the Nigerian people, always. And the politicians live in so much opulence and splendor that, I mean, it's obscene when you see it in comparison to the squalor and the poverty and the pain and frustration that Nigerians are facing. So it's what it tells you really, is that when we say that they are disconnected, they are 100% absolutely disconnected. It's not a joke. It's not just something that we're saying. Otherwise, how can you make this demand of Nigerians? And then you're still collecting, you are not, there are some governors in this country that are collecting about 1.4 billion naira as security votes, which they don't account for. 2 states in this country, about 1.4 billion. I mean, it's a heist. That is what is going on in this country. You know, and unfortunately, no wonder, Kalmeya in his book, when you look at it, you try to find out where this is coming from. You know, he said, look, Nigeria is a criminally run corporation. He said, this is a country, corporation. That's quoting him, where the leaders are armed and are hidden in the safe.
This house has fallen. That's what
this house has fallen. Thank you very much. Very much. So when you look at it, it's sheer banditry, sheer robbery that people are going to. So the politicians, we can only say, look, can't you see what is going on? Can't you see that we cannot continue this way? And so obviously, the issue of monies accruing to the politicians, as far as I'm concerned, should go down by as much as 60 to 65%. 60 to reflect our realities. Because they are not ready to do things that will make them reflect our realities. Instead, it is pushed to the people to do that. And you know, that's the, yeah.
All right, I get the point of the things that you do not like in these new policies. But then what are the things that you commend in what President Tinubu has been able to do so far? Because part of what your press conference yesterday said that, okay, we acknowledge that certain things have been done. We may have issues with the student loan scheme and everything. What part of all these policies that you commend or that you think ultimately they work?
I was listening to your intro last speaker when I think the question was put to him. And he said it's still early. It's still early. So what we are trying to do, there is an old African saying that it is in the daytime that you look for the black sheep. Ours is not to look for things to commend the government about, because it's their duty, it's their responsibility to govern. The president himself told us, he said, look, do not feel sorry for me. I was the one that asked for the job. So if he has done something that is, okay, fine. If you want to push me to say something nice about the government, then I would say, okay, perhaps the thought of providing students loan to loan access to students.
Yeah,
it's a good thought. Do you understand?
As an idea, as a policy.
As an idea, good, as a concept, as a policy. But we have looked at it because, and that's the essence of policy. By the time you make policy, it's subject to a lot of things. And then when you begin to realize that, look, that there is a lot of issue with this, you have to go back to the drawing board to look at it once more. And I can tell you that there is a lot to look at.
You don't think that the idea of removing fuel subsidy or the idea of floating the naira to reflect the true value of the naira are good?
No, let me put it this way again. Let's also be careful about the intervention of the international community in the country's economy. If you go to the history of Latin America with regards to loans and restructuring and all that, you realize that they were on the verge of total collapse. So what the IMF does, the World Bank, and so they will come in and they will try to restructure and the rest. And each of these things you collect further, ensures that you are indebted to them. So we also must be worried about the new colonial structure of the state itself. Right. So it's not a given that when somebody gives you something, maybe loans or whatever, and tells to restructure, that automatically translates to success. Because all over Africa, if you know how much debt the African countries have collected over the years, and part of what the prof was talking about was possibility of restructuring, possibility of debt forgiveness. As a Nigerian, I should say yes, the debt forgiveness, let's do that. But I won't, and I think it is wrong. Yeah, because we were forgiven. How many years ago we paid a whopping $12 billion? In one tranche.
Yeah.
And then all our debt, about 32 billion, then it disappeared overnight. Yeah. Within a few years, we are back to 77 trillion naira.
It's almost
about 45 billion.
Almost 80 trillion.
Okay, so what are we talking about?
Right. I mean, we're still speaking about this subsidy removal. I believe it was in April, Zainab Ahmed had revealed that the World Bank had already given us this $800 million facility for the palliative. And this will cater to about, 50 million Nigerians. Again, I'm going to refer to Hadiza Bala Ahmed's interview. She said, we heard her say that, okay, this is supposed to help, but we're not even sure about that national register, which they said had about 10 million households in it. So would you call this another scheme if our policymaker is saying we're not even sure about this national
We all know what happened
register.
With the COVID-19 palliatives all over the country. We all know what happened, and we all know, the intrigues that characterized that scheme. Look, there has not been any fundamental change to the way we do things in this country. Corruption continues to be a problem, and we are trying to fight it. The government has told us that through so many things, they want to do something about it. But until we do that, it will be difficult to say that the government has come up with something and we should go to bed and relax because we can trust them. Nigerians don't trust their political leaders. But they want to trust them. This is what I'm trying to say. They want to trust them. You must give them, oh yes, you must give reasons, because trust is not something that, trust is something that is earned. You don't tell me as a president, as a governor to trust you. There has to be a basis for trust. And Nigerians do not trust their institutions, unfortunately, because their institutions, time and time again, for over 60-something years, has disappointed them.
So do you think that this is heading into another type of scam?
Look, this is, I mean, I just gave a few statistics, and I said it doesn't add up. This is what people will get the loan. Very few, very negligible few. And if care is not taken, the rest will end up in private pockets and accounts. I mean, this is my country. I've been in this country for how long? And we have seen things happen, much to our disappointment. We want a country that works. We want to support our political leadership. And let's put it that way. Because their success becomes our success. Their failure becomes our failure.
All right.
So we'll give the benefit of the doubt, but we have totally run out of time. But Achike, in 30 seconds, if you can, do you think that the Labour NLC and NGOs like yourself will have a voice in this new administration?
You know, I think that, civil society organizations, credible ones, have a lot of work to do. I don't know about Labour. They have made their bed, so they will lie on it.
Well, all right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much again for joining us on the morning show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Well done.